Coming up this week on the Markcast. Well, as we approach week 4 of the XFL 2023 season, it's time to ask the question, is the XFL living up to expectations? Is it handsome Squidward? Is it ugly Squidward? Somewhere in the middle, you tell me.
Squidward, you're even more handsome now! And the crowd is in a frenzy!
Really fun show this week. Eclectic show as always. Lots of things to talk about. We welcome Skubie Mageza onto the program, one of the hosts of XFL Today. Skubie with ESPN talking all things XFL. What does he make of the season so far? Fan reaction, players that are standing out to Skubie, and more.
It's great for the game of football. I said this on the first episode because it's not just giving the players an opportunity, but the coaches, the referees, the trainers, the scouts. So this can trickle all the way up or even all the way down to the college game as well with their new rules and how us as a fan get access into the game. You can really see the passion that these guys have for football. And the beautiful part about it is the rules are really showcasing themselves on a national stage every single week, where it makes the game that much more exciting.
And then Justin Freeman of RunTheSims.com stops by. We do a full weekend preview, all 4 XFL games. Who's Justin taking? Standout players? Who should you be playing in fantasy? All of that.
I think I've seen a lot more positive reception towards it this time around. I think people are going to always be skeptical of spring football until we get repetitive seasons, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of the league being in existence from year after year. There's obviously excuses or reasons, whatever you want to call them, for why the past iterations haven't worked out. But, just for the casual fan who wants to be a bit of a hater for spring football in general, you're going to have a tough time convincing them until you get a little bit more longevity.
And then 3 tremendous player interviews this week. Joe Wallace, one of the standout defensive players with the XFL D.C. Defenders. Darrius Shepherd of the XFL St. Louis Battlehawks. And then your friend and mine, QB1 of America's CFL team, the BC Lions, Vernon Adams, returns to the program. We catch up with Vernon and see what's going on.
I took it up on myself to say, hey, I know it's going to be tough, but that's a good team over there in BC. So let me just come in and just do my job, get these guys the ball. We had a great defense, let them do the rest, It was a lot, but it was fun. That challenge was fun, and just trying to stay here all the time, not getting too high, not getting too low, no matter what's going on, So it was tough, but it was definitely a fun challenge.
Thanks as always. Like and subscribe. Hey guys, welcome to the Markcast. Reed here, coming to you a day early this week. If you're catching this live, have to go to the mountains tomorrow, do a little filming for a retreat. So coming to you a day early, hope that's okay. Gives you extra time to kind of preview, get ready. I think Thursday is probably the better day for the Markcast here during the XFL season, but we do what we can. I like keeping the normal Friday, but hopefully you'll enjoy this week. Really loaded show today as you listen to this. Also, I should be appearing or have appeared on the Rod Peterson program today. As you're listening to this, I'll be sure to plug the episode. But if you're checking this out, check out Rod's YouTube channel, going on there to chat all things XFL. I'm sure should be a fun time with Rod. On the show today, like I said, Skubie Mageza of XFL Today, one of the hosts there over at ESPN. Really appreciate that. Justin Freeman coming on, Run the Sims. Justin is a wealth of football and sports knowledge. Really appreciate Justin, deep dive. He does all his fantasy, DFS and all of that, imparting some of that knowledge on us listeners, getting ready for the weekend's games. And then the 3 tremendous player interviews today, Joe Wallace, Darrius Shepherd, and then Vernon, my friend, over at the BC Lions. Really appreciate Matt Baker over at the Lions for facilitating that. And then the teams over at the Battlehawks and Defenders. Should be really exciting this weekend, both in DC and Audi Field for the Defenders game versus the Vipers. And then obviously we are all awaiting, The Rock is tweeting, kind of everything else about the Battlehawks return to the Dome. Should be fun. Just talking point today, how are we feeling? Is the XFL living up to expectations? I'm having fun. Justin seems to be having fun. What do you guys think? Just trying to kind of spur, conversation there, get all of that going. Should have another tremendous show next week. Like and subscribe. Remember, when we hit 3,500 subscribers, if and when, 2 free tickets to the XFL Championship game in San Antonio, or 2 tickets to the USFL Championship game. Your choice. Get us to 3,500 subscribers. Like I said, big show next week. Already have another ESPN guest lined up. Should be fun. And then working to schedule Mike Mitchell on as well. I know that he is chomping at the bit to come on and talk some XFL. We'll try to get Mike in the mix next week. Stick back at the end of the show. Tune back in here, and I'll give you an update on the giveaway, kind of all of that stuff. We'll see you at the end. Thanks. Well, fresh off a Jamaican vacation here, and we're at week 3 of XFL today. We have Skubie Mageza here. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, doing good. It's the warmer's starting to get a little bit better over here, so I'm just looking forward to the spring. Looking forward to more football. Life is good right now, man. We can see it. We can see the other side of the hill now. You know what I mean?
It's coming. So I'm curious. I mean, first off, here the XFL today, fun studio show, right? You know, obviously we advocate spring football and kind of getting that visibility there. How did you get involved in kind of all of that to begin with?
So I've been at ESPN for almost a year and a half now, and I cover college football as well as an NFL show. So in our digital talent pool, our bosses were trying to figure out who they want into this show. And Fitz and I have worked together quite a bit ever since the first time that I got to ESPN. We just have some good chemistry together, and we have a lot of fun. We both have a strong passion for football and enthusiastic energy for the game of football. And our bosses saw that. So it's truly an honor to be able to kind of help pioneer this league and give it a platform where other fans can join in on the fun.
Well, it's exciting and it's necessary, right? I mean, there's a lot of fan-led, initiatives and everything, but getting the platform of ESPN and on there, getting you guys your knowledge, bringing in guests. Did you view any of XFL 2020, or are you coming into this fresh in 23?
I did view a little bit of 2020, but 23 was the first time that I dove into it, because in 2020 I was working as a local news anchor in Iowa. So my attention was on what my coverage area was worried about. But as a fan, I watched the game of football. So now that being at ESPN, hearing that was a possible relationship that they have, I immediately began to dig into it and invest into the sport and just get myself up to date once they announced who was going to be on the show. And obviously we knew a little bit earlier from when they announced it to the public, and we have access towards stats, information that they give us a lot of tools to be able to understand the league more. And that has helped a lot.
So, here we are, we're approaching week 4. What do you make of 3 weeks of XFL football?
It's fun to watch, man. I think it's great for the game of football. I said this on the first episode, because it's not just giving the players an opportunity, but the coaches, the referees, the trainers, the scouts. So this can trickle all the way up, or even all the way down to the college game as well, with their new rules and how us as a fan get access into the game. You can really see the passion that these guys have for football. And the beautiful part about it is the rules are really showcasing themselves on a national stage every single week, where it makes the game that much more exciting. So I would consider it a really good success.
Hey, I'm seeing a lot of, you guys and girls, people in ESPN and outside. It seems like it's extending kind of into the football Twitter kind of zeitgeist right now. Are you feeling that way, that other people are watching that maybe wouldn't normally be involved in this?
Yeah, definitely, because we know what the power of social media does. And just posting Josh Gordon scoring a 60-yard game-winning touchdown and Ben DiNucci screaming down the field like a child, that is something that we can all relate with, because it takes you back to when you were a kid playing football in the backyard and your buddy catches it and you're both celebrating. We hear that excitement. And to be able to post that on social media, and for those to get hundreds of thousands of views, even millions, you kind of say, let me check out one of these games. Let me actually see what it's about. And when you actually watch it, it's entertaining. good football. These are good football players that they have on that field, and they've showcased their skills.
Is it, in terms of the actual football talent, is that living up to your expectations? Is it exceeding it?
I would say it's been a sloppy start. It was a sloppy start, but you've seen each team get better, and I think we have to keep in consideration that they only had a 5-week training camp together. So if you're only in training camp for 5 weeks, that means the chemistry still has to be built. The coaches also have to understand their players a little bit more. They had a good idea, and it was great football week 1, but I think it's just continued to get better. And we are seeing some guys who are NFL worthy. Ben DiNucci, NFL worthy. Josh Gordon is clearly still an NFL wide receiver. And Jaquan Peterson on Seattle as well is a pro receiver. Kirkland for Houston, he showed himself to have that type of potential. So this gives those guys a chance to just gain their confidence and put 10 games worth of tape on. And you show that to an NFL team, you say, okay, they're still getting their reps. They're getting better. And you don't have to have them on a practice team doing that. It's live game reps.
What I like about it too, and I know you guys had DiNucci on here because it was after the Seattle win on Saturday, and he was on our show kind of preseason, and a lot's been made of, like, when are you going back, or how are you going back? And he told you guys, I'm just kind of enjoying this right now. I'm enjoying kind of being able to lead a team, be in the field that way. And so I like players being invested. Like, yes, obviously that's going to come down the road, but you need them to be invested now as well.
Yeah. You just think of it in the sense of the type of reps that they're getting. Reps are great when you're in the NFL, but a lot of those guys have been the guy their entire life. And now all of a sudden you're on special teams and you're the test dummy in practice. And then you all of a sudden get thrown in a game due to injury, and it's like 100 miles per hour, and you really haven't been used to these game reps. So to give guys an opportunity to have more game reps, live game reps, is just going to get their confidence up, and they can feel just the same way that they felt when they were in college playing football and in high school playing football. And Ben DiNucci, I think he's just having some of the most fun that he's had in his career because he's just getting to play the game still. And when you get to the NFL, those are some different type of cats in there. Not everybody gets to just step on the field and get consistent reps.
Well, you said the word fun, and I noticed, you guys in the studio show try to convey that. I think it was Tom Luganbill the game over the weekend. He was on our show as well, talking like, we're at the Defenders. It's fun. It's rowdy. We watched all the USFL stuff last year, and I don't know how much of that you caught, but, it just feels like there's a different energy here right now, even if we are trying to build the crowds up. And obviously we're looking forward to St. Louis and everything else, but the energy feels infectious.
Yeah. And maybe that comes from the culture that the XFL has already established. I think there's already kind of a nucleus of a fan base in it, and people are excited about it. And Danny Garcia and The Rock they're just doing it right. They've done the right type of promotion, and you got a backer like Disney, ESPN. That's also going to do a lot for the game. When you got some great players here, and the fans are buying in, and I think it's just with the culture, but you can feel that there's a different type of energy with this game, and it's fun.
In terms of, and I know you do your power rankings and everything, and, deep down at the bottom, I think Mike Mitchell ranked Andy Garcia, the referee of the Vegas game, holding the football for the kickoff above the Orlando Guardians in terms of his power rankings. But, we've seen the Guardians make moves this week. They had a couple trades, right? I think trying to bolster their O-line, bringing in Quentin Flowers here. I don't know how long that's going to take for him to get up to speed. Like, how down or how scared should we be of the Orlando Guardians right now?
Early in the week we had a meeting, and we were gonna just plan it as like Arlington is going to kill the Guardians, and I was like, hold on now. I feel like the Guardians are going to play this game better than most people expect because they have a pretty good throwing offense. However, they can't get out of their own way. A lot of dumb penalties, a lot of dumb decisions. I think they're a team that is lacking a lot of discipline as well, unfortunately. And who knows what that could attest to? Maybe some people like to look at the head coach position. Who knows? I'm not going to speculate necessarily on what that is, but I think they're at a point right now where it's like, all right, this team just doesn't have a culture, and you can feel that they don't really have somebody that's a leader in that locker room as a direction to go. So I'm down on them, but I like where they are because the stats and the numbers show themselves to be a good team, but then the other stats and numbers show that that good team is beating itself up.
It's hard because you talk about the challenge of developing the culture in 5 weeks at training camp, and now here we're going into week 4. But some teams are able to do it, right? I mean, we saw this in the USFL last year, where like the Maulers were horrible, but it's like everyone started at the same period. It's not like it's not like you've been historically bad for 20 years. Like they all came in at ground zero here.
Yeah, and it's like how are you going to establish that chemistry, especially in a hub where every single one of these players live in the same place? They all travel to games in the same plane together. They eat in the same cafeteria together. It's a lot, and it really starts at the top. The Guardians, they just need to figure it out. I don't know what Vegas saw early on in the season because they were automatically out on the Guardians way before teams even kicked off on the first game. So that was interesting, and now we're seeing that kind of reflect itself within the season. I mean, just looking at what the Guardians are right now, they're the lowest scoring team in the XFL. They have not scored in the second or the third quarters this season. They are outscored 36-0 in those quarters. They have a 5 turnover differential, which is second worst in the XFL. And they were sacked 13 times, which is the most in the XFL. Just a lot of the basic stuff that you should be good at in football, they're not.
Yeah, I think it was this last week they improved to they only allowed 4 sacks or something this last week. And that was like a huge improvement that they only allowed 4 sacks.
Yeah, just a lot of things that doesn't look good for them. And they also don't know what to do at the quarterback position. They're a little bit different from DC. DC kind of, I think DC needs to figure it out as well at the quarterback position. But that's another story. But you have Paxton Lynch. You start him, and then you sit him, then you bring him back, and then you kick off another quarterback off your team because he was sharing his playbook with somebody else. To me, that screams just a toxic locker room, and that energy isn't right, and it's showing on the field.
Yeah, that whole situation, and I was actually surprised that you guys in the league, they even talked about it on the air because I mean, there's been so many conflicting stories with that. It is kind of weird. Like something happened. I don't know what it was, but it's not a good sign.
Oh yeah, and I thought it was interesting how the league brought that player back, and now they're investigating. He's in the kind of the inactive pool, and that's the only player that's really gotten there like that. So interesting story to say the least.
In terms of the defenders, you were talking, needing to figure it out. They're kings of the North right now, but it felt like they finally got some stuff going this week. I thought they looked better in the standings than they did on the field. Do you think they deserve that top spot now?
No, that still goes to the Houston Roughnecks, but they're most definitely the second best team in the league, and that is because of their defense. When you have a defensive coordinator like Greg Williams, a guy who was during that bounty gate in New Orleans, a head coach, a defensive-minded coach who can really put his players in the right position to be successful, who can instill his dog attitude into his defensive players. That defense plays with an attitude unlike any other, and you can just feel it. So I trust their defense more than I do their offense because Ta'amu is supposed to be the throwing quarterback, but yet he's top 5 in the XFL in rushing. But then De'Ara King is really their rushing quarterback. And sometimes they put him in there when Ta'amu has a flow. I think it was late in the second half, Ta'amu drove him right down the field. They scored. They hadn't scored in a while. And then the next drive, they put King back in, and that was a 3-and-out drive. And it was like, why would you that other quarterback had a rhythm going. You kind of threw that off. So they just have to figure out what they want to do at quarterback over there.
In terms of looking forward here to the matchups this weekend, obviously the big, I think everyone has circled the St. Louis home game, expecting, 30,000, 32,000. Is that your matchup of the weekend you're most excited about, Arlington going into St. Louis?
It's exciting because we're looking at it from a perspective of St. Louis is going to be home, but no, I'm not that excited about it because Arlington has not been an entertaining team to watch for the most part. I don't know what if we saw mostly about Arlington this year with their offense scoring their first offensive touchdown of the season, just this week. I think I'm looking at the Vegas Vipers and the D.C. Defenders, and I'm also looking at the San Antonio Brahmas and the Sea Dragons because the Brahmas are a better team than people give credit for. But I also like the Vegas Vipers because I think Brett Huntley is just going to get better and make this offense better because he got into training camp late. And mind you, he's also the highest paid player in the XFL, and there's a reason why. He's a talented dude.
Yeah, I think I said on our show on Monday here, I view anything at DC right now as kind of must watch just because of you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What are we going to throw on the field and the crowd and everything? Contrast that with the Cashman Field of it here. Having this rematch at Audi Field is certainly going to feel different.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be fun to watch, and that's why it's prime time. That's why it's got the 7 p.m. spot, and I love that. That one should be one that everyone keeps an eye on. There's nothing like Sunday night football, and I'm glad that the XFL has brought that back.
It's weird. It does, like you were talking to the Renegades, it does feel like Bob Stoops gets, remember more back to 2020, but the Renegades weren't that good in 2020, and then they bring Stoops back, and he has all this, college coaching legacy, and like you said, they just cannot seem to get anything going at all, running or passing.
I mean, they've scored 46 points this year. That's the second fewest in the XFL. And they also have the fewest yards per game in the XFL at 183 yards per game. Their offense has the fewest in the XFL, 3 offensive touchdowns, 3 touchdowns total, which is 2 pick sixes on defense. So they just haven't done much at all on offense. Last in passing yards, last in yards per rush. What makes football fun to watch is its offense. And you would think that Bob Stoops would have that figured out. I think him as a coach, what he's really good at is adjusting and kind of keeping his guys in the game. And that's why all the games that they've played have been close for the most part. But I think it's St. Louis's game for sure from what I've seen on offense from the Renegades.
In terms of, you said you were going to have the Renegades kill the Guardians last week or whatever. Are the Roughnecks going to kill the Guardians here Saturday?
Are the Roughnecks going to kill the Guardians, you said?
Yeah.
I would say so. The Roughnecks is so good. So good. And we saw them in that game against the Brahmas, and I was like, all right, let's see how good this team is. I kind of like the Brahmas. They've just lost some close games, see how they come out. And the Roughnecks still showed to be dominant. Great on offense, great on defense. The Guardians right now, like I said, they're the lowest scoring team. They just don't have a lot of good things going for them, and the Roughnecks are just getting better this year. You're going against a team that has the most sacks in the XFL. That's the Roughnecks going against a team that gave up the most sacks in the XFL. How are you supposed to be able to throw the ball at that point in time? It's probably going to get ugly.
Yeah, the Wade Phillips defense, it's remarkable here that, and I guess it shouldn't be someone that has the coaching pedigree that he does, but really feels like he's coming in here and running circles a little bit around some of these first-time head coaches.
Yeah, and it wasn't it funny in week 1 when he was kind of trash talking the coach the other side.
Yeah, Terrell Buckley saying, well, he's not a real coach. He doesn't know how to use his timeouts.
Exactly. Wade Phillips, he has that pedigree, and there's something to be said about the experience, and he knows exactly what he wants. And there was already this energy and this culture with the Houston Roughnecks of being a good team. They were 5-0 in 2020, and now here we come. They're like, we're a winning team. They have that winning attitude, and I'm sure he's made sure to instill a good culture. It's all about culture on football teams. I played on football. I was on multiple football teams as well. And the thing is, does everybody believe? Does everybody buy in? So for some reason, the Guardians are not buying in. The Roughnecks have bought in. Bob Stoops, still a great head coach. I think guys are buying in, but there still needs to be some systematical stuff figured out. But as long as you have a buy-in, you can win any game. But there seems to be no buy-in on one side and there's buy-in on the other.
I'll ask you here about the Brahmas, and then I have a philosophical question. I'll let you go. I appreciate your time today. In terms of the Brahmas, they're playing our Seattle Sea Dragons here at Lumen Field. You said you think that they're slightly better than the Renegades, and we've had Jack Cohen in there, and he's been the quarterback, and he's fine. I mean, what do you make of them offensively with Hines Ward?
I think they look good so far on offense, but some things that they've done hasn't worked out with Jack Cohn. You like what their defense is doing more than anything, right? Their offense has kind of been the concern. 232 yards per game, second fewest in the XFL this season. But they're running the ball really well. They're a good running team. So it's the best thing that they can do is put themselves in short yardage, third down situations. The best third down play is going to be first and second down. So if they can figure it out on those early downs, they'll probably be better off. But their defense has just done everything that they need them to do because they lead the XFL in tackles for loss. And on top of that, they have 9 sacks as a team, which is third most in the XFL behind D.C. and Houston. And we know how elite those defenses are. So the Brahmas need to just figure some things out offensively. And Jack Cohn needs to be a little bit more consistent. He was better the first 2 games, struggled in the third one. So he just needs a good bounce back game and give them points when they need it. Because the first game that they lost was kind of crazy. And, they've just been losing some close games.
Last question for me today. I appreciate your time. Just in terms of being involved in this world now with spring alternative football, and like you said, you've covered college, and what do you make of just the culture and the fandom and just how people embrace the league and the fan base, and what do you make of just kind of this world that now you are a part of here?
It's got a little bit of a WWE culture to it. I can't lie. And I think that's kind of the craziness with some of the fans as well. But that's fun because this isn't fake. This is real. I mean, there's some realness to WWE too. Yes, I know that. But this is real football. And this is football during a time of the year where us as sports fans have a hunger for football, especially on a Sunday and sometimes on a Saturday. And it's fun to watch. It's good football with some players that have great skills. And it's you know what? I want to see this grow more. And I would love to see what the NFL is going to do with the growth of this league, because there's opportunities for this where you can be well, there's 32 practice teams and those are some really good football players. If I'm an NFL team and I'm I really want to see what this guy can do, why don't I have him get 10 games of tape and get more reps and develop more at this position instead of that position that I have him at, doing what we want? How is that going to work out for us when I eventually want to bring him up? And the timing of the league is really perfect because it ends in April, right around the NFL draft. So teams are reshuffling their rosters. This is just great to see opportunities for guys to continue to be a part of the league. So I love that culture aspect of it because pro players are happy to see it because all football players know each other from top to bottom. And for them to see each other get opportunities is cool. And us as fans, we love an underdog story. We love to see guys overcome and go up levels, start with them from the ground up. So it's a fun trip, and I'm just happy to be tagging along.
Well, Skubie, I appreciate it. Yeah, hold down the studio for it. I think it's great. Like I said, getting that visibility and everything else. Appreciate you and all the guys over there and everything else you're doing. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. This is fun. You have a good day, and I don't know who you got for the season. Who you got winning it all?
Well, I got to be Seattle. I mean, that's kind of my. I live 15 minutes from the stadium, so that's got to be mine. And Ben's good. I like Houston. Brandon Silvers was our quarterback back in 2020, so I like seeing him now. Finding the success that we didn't have with him back in 2020. So either Houston or Seattle, I should be happy.
Yeah, I like where your choices are. It shouldn't steer you wrong.
Well, I can't remember. I think it was sometime during the USFL season. I think we had Justin Freeman on. I don't think you hopped on the XFL draft show. I can't remember, but we have Justin Freeman with runthesims.com here. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm living the dream, Reed. I appreciate you having me on. I have really had such a good time with the XFL so far this year. Didn't really know what to expect in 3.0. Been pretty pleasantly surprised. It's been a roller coaster, though, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll get into, and Justin will be my big kind of week 4 preview here. We'll talk about the games, but broad sense, is the XFL living up to your expectations?
Yeah, I'd say so overall. I wish that we could get a little bit more star power starting to build up. I think you're seeing that at the receiver position. There's a couple guys to me who really are starting to separate themselves. I wish the quarterback play could pick it up. But overall, I love I love the TV product. I think it's been fantastic so far. And that's just such a big unknown when you enter a season like this. So far, I'm thrilled with it. I think the TV product looks so much better than what we saw from the USFL and I love the USFL, so don't get me wrong, no hater here. But playing in front of the empty stadiums was definitely kind of tough for the casual person to want to watch. I think the crowds have been great. Obviously, Cashman kind of stands out as an asterisk, but overall, I give the XFL really a A- so far.
Yeah, I've said that too, and Cashman, and that is what it is, and it's not great, but having Audi Field, we're gonna see this weekend with the Battle Dome, but that just shows having that beer snake and the people going crazy, and it feels like a college party. It's even such a weird demographic there, where the USFL was okay. We got friends and families and kids, and we gotta get as many people as we can in here. DC might have 15,000 people, but it's every single person there is kind of all in.
Exactly. It kind of reminds me of some of the MLS stadiums are starting to take on some of these personalities too, where it's the team may not be that great, but the fans are amazing. They're going to show up week after week. They're going to have a good time, whether the game is any good or not. And they're kind of taking ownership of that and making it their own. And so I appreciate that. I love that. And that's why I love that small stadium atmosphere. To me, that's miles and miles better than playing in an NFL stadium that seats 70,000 people and having it, 1/6 of the way full or something. To me, it's much better to have that intimate setting, pack it out. It's kind of I'm a Duke guy. Cameron Indoor Stadium is notorious for not having a ton of people there, but it's every seat's packed, wall to wall. There's not a inch to move around, and that creates a really dynamic atmosphere.
You talked about, seeing kind of stars being built, wide receiver. Who's standing out in terms of, must watch or people you're keeping your eye on?
I'm really fascinated by this Houston offense. Obviously, I think Jontre Kirkland is the guy who's stirring the drink right now. Leaving the light on for Deontay Burnett, who also shined in week 1. But really, I'm fascinated by this coaching staff. I would love for all these guys to not be in the XFL next year because they've all done enough to earn, a bigger job, a more lucrative job, the one that they're all looking for in the NFL or a big-time college position. So yeah, I love this Houston team. I love everything they're doing. Their defense is lights out. Their offense is fun and fast-paced. I think you're seeing guys sort of flying around and make plays, and that to me is the sign of a really good coordinator. So hats off to AJ Smith, who I think really stands out as the class of the OC group here in this league so far.
Well, it is because you brought in, we've got Elizondo and June Jones, even some of these, older, been kind of around the block. Then you have AJ here coming in, and it feels like it's just running circles around a lot of these guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's not like he's trying to make everything overly complex. And I think that's where a lot of these coordinators really kind of get lost in the sauces. They really want to install these NFL offenses. That's not to say Houston's offense is simple by any means, but the terminology is a lot, and that's one of the cool things about the access that we get is we get to hear that terminology. It's a lot more condensed, a lot more straightforward. And that to me takes a mental burden off the players, lets them go out there and just fly around, make plays. That's what they're good at. These guys are all obviously fantastic talents that can go out and make plays. Just don't burden them down with terminology and that sort of thing. And when your defense is setting you up to be in good offensive position, then you're really going to be set up for success really on both sides of the ball. It's been kind of breeding. Like I anticipate this team to kind of continue to steamroll their way through the South Division straight to the championship game. The North, obviously, a bit more competitive.
Well, that's the hard thing. And if you think through it, because like Orlando is, out to lunch here, like not even competitive. Even Arlington, and we had, I had Skubie on here with ESPN kind of on the same show today. And, it's like Arlington just cannot get anything. It is a really weak Southern Division. It feels very unbalanced with Houston in there.
Yeah, and it's going to be a quarterback-driven league, and you really want to see a bit more confident play. I was impressed with what the Guardians finally were able to do, and I mean the bar might not have been the highest in the world in terms of how they got there, but overall, like I think Paxton Lynch is capable. Like I think if you just sort of stick with him, let him ride it out. Stop, subbing out quarterbacks every 2 series, let them develop a little bit of rhythm. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up winning a couple games this year. I mean, I know they're obviously going to be projected to lose probably in every game they play for the rest of the season, but not a lot of favors on their plate this week, taking on Houston, who we just sort of talked about as being the class of the league. But maybe once they can get past that, there's some opportunities for some wins on their schedule.
I saw Quentin Flowers be brought in here as well. It's cool to see him obviously get that shot and having been in 2020 and he was with Fan Control Football. Like, I don't know what he does with this offense here coming in. Do we see him week 5, week 6? Like, I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, I think it's Paxton's job to lose at this point, and hopefully they'll give him a little bit of leash. And that's what I think is a little frustrating is you give a guy 1 game, 2 games to try to prove himself, and obviously there's just not enough data to make that type of conclusion. I would like to see him. He makes some throws, occasionally that you're like, wow, that's a big boy throw right there, and maybe it bounces off the guy's fingers or just, isn't quite where it needs to be for a big play or lacking some talent somewhere else. But I've been relatively impressed, given what he's working with.
Talent level where we're at right now versus USFL, kind of where we were at this point. Like, how do you do? Are we on pace here? Are we doing all right?
Yeah, it's really tough to compare, honestly. But I think we've seen these teams gel together sooner in this league than we saw in the USFL. I think the USFL had more growing pains, and that had to do with the fact they had an abbreviated training camp. They it was obviously a race between these 2 leagues as to who was going to get going first. And the USFL was very dedicated towards launching last year in 2022. XFL a little bit more methodical in its approach. And I think that showed up a little bit. I think all those teams were a little rusty getting started. But I think the talent level has been relatively even. I might give a slight edge to the XFL so far through 3 weeks. But and I think that sort of shows up in who decided, some of the better players in the USFL did opt out and to go into the XFL. So, I don't think I'm breaking any new ground by saying that the talent may be a smidge better in the XFL, but it's pretty comparable.
Are you sensing more interest, traffic, however you kind of view your metrics on what you do at Run the Sims versus what you did with USFL, or is it kind of the same?
I think there's definitely the XFL has really a good reputation that it's riding on from 2.0, because the people who were paying attention know that it was working and know that if not for COVID, we'd likely, we'd probably be it'd be a staple part of the seasonal rotation, to look at spring football. I think the USFL sort of changed that a little bit, but I definitely see a little bit more name brand attraction towards the XFL just because of that 2020 iteration.
I feel like, and I know but I follow USFL stuff too. Like, I just feel like I see a lot more, Pat McAfee is tweeting about it. We see all the different ESPN people tweeting about it. And I know I always felt like USFL and Fox, it was like, we are going to promote this on our platforms and that is it. And it just feels like it's more, at least I'm seeing it more shared right now.
Yeah, and I think that ESPN partnership is absolutely massive. I mean, when people think sports, they think ESPN, like right off the bat. I think The Rock being a Hollywood megastar is way more important than people probably want to give credit for. Like, he's stirring the drink quite a bit for just sort of attention for the league. And it's really what the league's all about, is trying to get eyeballs on these players and the product itself, if you're an administrator of this league. And I think The Rock does a lot just by showing up and being a part of this and associating his mega clout towards this league and letting it just sort of rub off, a little halo effect there from him. But yeah, no, I think I've seen a lot more positive reception towards it this time around. I think people are going to always be skeptical of spring football until we get repetitive seasons, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of the league being in existence from year after year. There's obviously excuses or reasons, whatever you want to call them, for why the past iterations haven't worked out. But, just for the casual fan who wants to be a bit of a hater for spring football in general, you're going to have a tough time convincing them until you get a little bit more longevity.
I haven't seen as much negativity. I have seen this week and sliding ratings, or the ratings are down. At the same time, they're flexing games to higher networks, right? They're moving games up to ABC and ESPN. That to me says they're happy with the cable ratings. We want to, we're getting 600,000 on FX. Like, let's see what we can do back on ABC. Like, do you view it that same way?
100%. I think that the new statement that came out yesterday as we recorded this was fascinating and fantastic news for the XFL in terms of how the suits in the Disney office are viewing these ratings. And I think they're seeing that, hey, we can continue to foster this and water this plant a little bit and see what it grows into. Even if it's not for a short-term result, maybe it's a long-term play here, but they're saying, let's get some more games on ABC. Let's get some more games on ESPN. People are clicking onto this. People are watching this. When it gets to FX, I think some people it's kind of the black void out there a little bit, but I've been a person who's obviously looking for these games, so I'm a little bit in the minority here. But having them all available through ESPN Plus has been fantastic and made it really easy for me to digest these games. But I think that's a great step forward for the league to get more and more of these games, especially ABC. I mean, ABC puts it on every person's television in America.
Yeah, I just can't imagine that many like non-hardcore people stumbling upon it on FX. Like, I think even with, and I don't want to be the Reed Homer here against the USFL or whatever, but like Fox or NBC, where like there's just a base number of TVs that are always going to be on that, right? That are all like whatever. We have it on where you're really having to seek out ESPN2 or FX, like trying to find these games. It was the same thing with the USFL when it was on Peacock or FS1. Like those games, having the higher ratings on those always seem more impressive to me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it gives the league something to sort of hitch onto and claim as a point of pride for themselves, that these ratings, when you actually do magnify them and put them on your best channels, do show up and are worth, gaining advertising dollars, the types of things that are going to fund the league for future years. I mean, I think obviously The Rock is probably as well suited to continue to finance this thing as most Americans. But no, I think obviously they do want to turn a profit at some point. So having some legitimate eyeballs on this on network television, I think is a great way to start.
Last kind of general question, then we'll talk the matchups here. Are you, and I know it was a thing with the USFL, we're not getting enough transactional info, injury info, who's ready to go, kind of all that stuff. Do you feel like XFL is doing better or worse? How do you feel they're doing?
If you're connected, that you're probably getting better information than you were getting from the USFL. If you're not a media member, you're kind of having to rely on secondhand, third-hand information to get a lot of this. I think like a really low hanging fruit that the XFL can capitalize is simply putting injury report information routinely on their website for the entire public to view, not just simply sharing that out with media members and hoping that they disperse it. I think when you talk about how to appeal to crowds such as mine, which is the DFS and sports betting crowd, the integrity of the game is huge. And that means everyone has all the same information as everyone else. And that means having up-to-date rosters and transactions. That's been good so far. We obviously had hiccups with that with the USFL last year. But having that injury information disseminated and really just like maybe thinking of ways to invite the sort of local media in a bit more. I would love to hear just like more insightful news stories throughout the course of the week of such and such player not spotted in the open portion of practice. Like that's an NFL headline throughout the course of the week. We don't get that sort of access and information for the XFL. And maybe there's not an appetite for it just yet, but hopefully at some point we can kind of continue to iterate on that. But I think making a lot more of this information public instead of private, I think would be a really easy thing they could do to let more people in on what they're doing.
Yeah, I was tagged in a Facebook discussion yesterday, and they were asking about that. Like, well, how much interest? I'm like, well, clearly they view, they have the ticker on the thing. They're talking the over. We're gonna hit the over. We're gonna hit the like. They clearly know this is like we know we have to lean into and do this, but yet we just don't know all the steps to kind of get to that point.
Yeah, and I think, the depth charts, for example, weekly depth charts, and especially the depth charts heading into week one when we know nothing about these teams, whoever's hobbling those together, and it's likely a member of the social staff or the media staff for those teams, and not necessarily like Heinz Ward's not stenciling that out for the San Antonio Brahmas, right? It would be great to have those be a bit more informative and spot on. Like, I mean, there's just still going to be a lot of question marks heading into it. And, if a team is planning on making a change at quarterback, San Antonio, a good example this week, are they possibly going to be switching over from Cone to Sinnett? It's not incredibly clear at this point. And while I get there's a competitive advantage to your opponent not knowing who your starting quarterback's going to be, this is also a key point of fan engagement. Like, fan engagement may say, oh man, new quarterback. Now I'm a lot more intrigued in how this game's going to go. So I think it would be worth them sacrificing a bit of those edges in the name of transparency, just to bring the fans a bit more into it. And especially that betting market, who's obviously going to be super intrigued by that type of information.
Let's go here. So we've got week 4, a couple exciting matchups here. And then I don't know. What do you make Houston kind of running away with the world right now? Week 1 rematch here against the Guardians.
Yeah, it's a little strange to me that they're playing again already here in week 4 after playing in week 1, but schedule makers making it pretty rough on our Guardians, right? So I don't think I think the Guardians, what you're really looking for is some continued steps forward in the offensively. They're going to have their work cut out for them, but they did a much better job last week of protecting the passer. If they can kind of continue to do that against maybe what's the best pass rush in the XFL in Houston, I think that would be, you're looking for some moral victories here, even if you think you may not come away with a win. And that may be tough for a guy like Terrell Buckley to come to grips with. He's obviously a very competitive and driven guy. But I think you're looking for improved offensive line play, keep your quarterback clean, make some sustained drives. Maybe if they don't even turn into touchdowns at the very end, let's get down the field. Let's move the chains. Let's make some progress. Let's get some first downs. But overall, I'm expecting this to be a pretty one-sided affair with Houston really having their way with Orlando, especially when Houston's on offense.
I called back Kirby Wilson. He was the Mad King back in the USFL. I'm still trying to figure out what is my, what do I view Terrell Buckley? Do you have what do we I need new guys out there. My guys don't care. What is his throwing someone under the bus? What's your metaphor for Terrell Buckley?
Oh yeah. I mean, that really rubs me the wrong way too. I mean, as just a sports fan in general, that. There's a lack of accountability there, right? Where you're just saying, it's obviously not me, it's these guys. If they could just make some more plays, we're calling the plays and just fine. If we could just have them that, to me is not really great leadership. I'm trying to think who would be another Game of Thrones character that would show really poor leadership. Maybe he's the Joffrey Baratheon or somebody like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's never my fault. I'm gonna go. I rewatched. It got tagged up on something because I've been traveling. I've done my best to kind of piece together these games in retrospect and watch as much as I can of them. And it really is just a wild soundbite to have the coach be like, "These guys just don't care." They're they just need to make more plays.
Yeah, exactly. So you can either throw 51 guys under the bus or take a little bit of accountability on the chin. We see what he's chosen.
So obviously here, Houston by a country mile. I mean, any cause for concern otherwise?
Yeah, and I think a lot of places you can get Houston if you'll lay 8.5 points. I'm probably okay doing that in this game because you're talking 9 points is theoretically a one-possession game here in the XFL. So I think Houston won't rest with a 9-point lead. Look for them to get after it and win by more than 9.
Are we surprised to see Brandon Silvers QB1 of an undefeated franchise right now in the XFL in 2023?
I didn't expect that. It says a lot about the coaching staff in the XFL. And I mean, it honestly probably says something about the coaching staff for Seattle his last time around. Because he's he did not look great in XFL 2.0 and looks really fantastic here in 3.0 and makes it look pretty easy out there connecting with his receivers. It just goes to show how many guys have been in the right or wrong situation made to look better or worse than they actually are in college football, leading up into the NFL draft. And then once they get to the NFL and have their cup of coffee with whatever team and just don't fit for whatever reason, they could be a Brandon Silvers who just needs the right coach, right scheme to find a little bit of success.
I think that's absolutely a good point. That it literally looks like a completely different quarterback than we saw back in Seattle.
He does, and he's lighting it up, and it's not even just like he's getting lucky. Like they easily look like the easiest team in the league in terms of how they move the ball around, and part of that's having dynamic playmakers, part of that's having a great coordinator. I think maybe I probably discounted Brandon Silvers a bit too soon in terms of his competence as a quarterback, and I think he's kind of proven me wrong in that regard.
Do you think having these comms and seeing everybody on, seeing AJ Smith work through, does that make him look better, even being able to kind of watch his machinations through everything through the game?
Yeah, definitely. I think having that feedback coming through the headset is actually kind of a fascinating angle as well. I love hearing those coaches talk, and I love it when the coaches really tend to shut up, especially towards the last few seconds leading up into the snap. I think that shows a lot of confidence in the quarterback that they can go out there and execute without really kind of looking over their shoulder and whispering, every last thing into their ear. Watch out for this, watch out for that. I mean, I think that sort of thing is helpful every once in a while, but I think the best play callers are the ones that are not coaching up into the whistle.
Anything else from that? We can talk through the Brahma Sea Dragons here. Anything else with Roughnecks and Guardians?
Yeah, I continue to be interested in the receivers from Orlando in terms of how they can potentially perform. We've obviously got a running back injury situation going on with Orlando where they should have a new RB2 in place this week. Devin Darrington should be the RB2 for Orlando. But Lance Lenore, I'm interested to see if they can get him going in this offense. They're obviously, Charleston Rambo has not been the guy who we all thought he was, given the sort of draft capital that was invested in him. So I'm interested to see if Lance Lenore can be a sort of a second go-to guy in addition to Cody Latimer. Maybe those two guys can manage sort of the inside of the field and the outside of the field there together. But Houston, just every player is subject to have a big play on every single play. So, if you're playing DFS this week, Houston is definitely sort of the first place you want to get started with your stacks and stacking around Brandon Silvers and John Trey Kirkland and those types of guys.
Coming up here, we have another Lumen Field game here, second one with the Sea Dragons. Brahmas coming in. Haven't felt they're not the Guardians. I mean, they seem to be doing all right, still struggling. You talked earlier about potentially a quarterback change there. What did the Brahmas need to do to get going?
Yeah, I think their running game is putrid, honestly. And, if it weren't for the fact that they fed Kalen Ballage about a bajillion carries a couple weeks ago, they'd have no rushing stats to speak of at all. And they're really relying on the quarterback position to get things going in that offense. And this past week, that just simply was not there outside of that first drive that resulted in a touchdown to TJ Vasher. I think they have a lack of talent at the playmaking positions that's really starting to catch up with them. They were able to play good defense against St. Louis and really just kind of take that game down to the wire, try to protect the lead, which they obviously did not do up until the very last second. And here they get Seattle, a team that would probably be undefeated if not for shooting itself in its own foot continuously. So I'm obviously very intrigued in the Seattle offense. I think they're right there tit for tat with Houston in terms of offensive capability and firepower and talent. But they seem to have they seem to be making many more mistakes. And part of that you can put on the quarterback specifically, just being a little bit careless with the ball, like that game against D.C. where they were driving, should have milked out a win right there, key fumble towards the goal line, and just a little bit of sloppy play. But, sloppy play is to be expected early in the season. I think you started to see DiNucci really tighten things up with Seattle last week. I think you're going to continue to see, I keep waiting for Ja'Cour Pearson to come back down to earth. It's not happening. He's right there in that same class as John Trey Kirkland, guys who I hope should be wearing NFL jerseys next fall. Just to me, this is another sort of big talent gap in terms of these two teams. To me, it's Seattle by a mile.
In terms of DiNucci, I think they said on the XFL Today show it was like the best stat-wise game of his career. He seemed really like, we've been struggling. Now we're getting it back together. Is this the turning point? Was this an anomaly? What do you think with DiNucci?
I tend to believe that it's more of a turning point than an anomaly, because I think this looks much closer into expectation as to what we thought we might see heading into the season. So I'm willing to dismiss those couple first games as growing pains. And even game one, like, he looked fantastic, if not for a few costly mistakes. And obviously football is a game all about costly mistakes and getting penalized for those types of things when they happen. And so I have no doubt that this team is learning from its mistakes. They've got a running back position they've got to figure out mighty quickly this week. They did bring in Darius Bradwell off the street, a guy who very well may be the starting running back this week after Morgan Ellison went down with an injury in week 3. Obviously, they've got Brendan Knox on IR currently, and so it would not surprise me if Ellison joined him. I don't have any information that says such, but given the sort of the way that injury looked there in the fourth quarter, it seems like they'll be down to just one running back there. The other guy there is TJ Hammonds, who's sort of the hybrid type guy in that offense. But they need somebody, and I know this is a team that wants to throw the ball, but they got to have somebody who can, take a handoff and get 5 free yards if the defense wants to drop back.
Yeah, I will say there's a power ranking in terms of the XFL teams, and then there very much is a power ranking in terms of just the efficiency in which some of this information gets out. So I would put Seattle more in the bottom 4 of that. No, I know everyone's working through a lot of different stuff, but there's certain teams are quicker back with emails than others. But yeah, I think to get the information we could with Seattle would be great to kind of know what we have going into the weekend. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you talk about talent. To me, there's no question that Seattle is the more talented roster, and obviously with the more experienced coaching staff, for what that's worth.
Last question on that: Has June Jones elevated this? Is this? Are we glad he's back? We able to focus on the offense? He's not a heck. Like, are we happy with all that?
I think him as an offensive coordinator is a good fit there. And it just gives them an opportunity to focus on the play calling, not have to worry about the administration of an entire team and worrying about the defense and making conversion calls and fourth down decisions and that sort of thing. Like, leave that to Haslett. I think that's working out totally fine. I think, Seattle was a team that if I lived in a legal sports betting state, I would have wanted to put a little bit of money on to win the championship heading into last week. I thought if they could get past Vegas, which, that was a little tight as well, but if they could get past Vegas, they'd be in the driver's seat to really control their own destiny with games coming up against D.C. and St. Louis, where they could easily leapfrog their way into the playoffs in the North.
Talking St. Louis here, kind of also the big just matchup in terms of finally seeing kind of the Battle Dome and all. We're talking now opening up the 400 level. AJ McCarron, everyone else, what storyline are you tracking from the Battlehawks?
Yeah, no, I am so excited to see this crowd, because this will be our debut. It's hard to believe week 4 getting our debut of this St. Louis crowd, but maybe this is designed to be a bit of a crescendo in the middle of a season here. But expecting a massive crowd for St. Louis, and the guy who I'm really fascinated to continue to see his development is Hakeem Butler for the Battlehawks. And we're starting to see AJ McCarron sling it around a little bit more early in game. Obviously, he had been a bit of a late game hero those first 2 weeks. Last week, he was a bit more wire to wire, slinging it around a little bit. And I think having Brian Hill back in that backfield takes a little bit of pressure off him as well. But no, I am anxious to see what McCarron can do and whether Hakeem Butler can continue to build on what he's done, which has been really fantastic. Through over the last couple weeks, he's emerged as really their best playmaking receiving option. He's kind of that wide receiver, tight end hybrid type player, and he's starting to see his snap rates increase and getting onto the field, making plays. And that's really all you can ask for. You hope the coach will get you on the field and you go out there and you ball out and you make it really hard for him to take you off the field. We saw Austin Prohl really make plays, but he's struggled to stay completely healthy so far. We've seen him limp off more than once throughout the first 3 weeks of this season. I think Butler and Prohl can really dominate the inside of this offense.
Yeah, Brian Hill looks good too. He was on, I think, preseason or when he was with the Alumni Academy. Great to kind of track the players through that, and he's throwing the people's elbow and everything else. I think he was one of the guys that got fined with the big kind of scuffle, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the last game with D.C. and St. Louis. That was exciting.
Yeah, the people's elbow was epic. I was texting my buddies about that when it happened. I was like, oh, man, that's great. What next? One of my friends texted back, is somebody going to be climbing on the field goal post, catching Steve Weisers from the audience and clinking them together and drinking them? That would be great. Just really lean into this whole WWE storyline. But no, Brian Hill, I think, plays great. I think he makes the entire offense better. I think McCarron has this extra gear that's deep down inside him that really only comes out in certain situations. If the coaching staff can get him geared up a little bit earlier, we saw that a bit more with DC, then I think this team has a lot of firepower offensively and possibilities. The Arlington side, however, I don't see that with. They feel like a team that's stuck in quicksand. They have maybe one of the most accomplished coaches on this league with Bob Stoops, obviously a guy who has a long track record in college football at University of Oklahoma. And they just seem to not be able to get anything going. Their running backs are running backwards. The quarterback, just can't seem to find an open receiver. And when you look at who are they supposed to be throwing the ball to, it's not a who's who cast of players outside of Sal Cannella. And I think there were a lot of hopeful people to say Cannella, Slaughter, the reunion there with that narrative. And that just didn't really seem to come to fruition in their last game.
But they got the spark, though. They got a spark at 10 points. They got the spark with Slaughter.
Yeah, they they need something a little bit more than I think from Slaughter. So we'll see if they can improve. I'm not optimistic here against St. Louis. I think what we saw, if you look back at sort of old iterations of spring football, whether it's USFL last year, XFL the time before, there really is a point where these teams start differentiating among themselves in terms of who's the class of the league and who's not. And that gap can be pretty wide in a brand new league like this. And so it just wouldn't surprise me if you see some of these bottom dwelling teams like Arlington, San Antonio, those types maybe start to really take on a bunch of losses against the class of the league. And I think this is a prime situation where among some of these favorites, I'm happy to lay points. I'm happy to lay 4 points for St. Louis and take them to win this game straight up against Arlington.
Yeah, I think you could march anybody into St. Louis this weekend, and I would probably take St. Louis on. I mean, maybe Houston in there, but I think this is going to be their crowning. We're here. What they wanted the Brahmas to be week one against St. Louis. This is our big victory in front of our record crowd.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's exactly what we'll get.
Last game here, I've said Audi Field must watch everything with them and just fast. It's like an extra player there, right? I mean, it really is kind of like Seattle with the 12th man and all that. What do you make of the Vipers going to the rematch here now, but at Audi Field?
Yeah, no 40-mile-an-hour winds in this game. No rain, hopefully, here for DC and Vegas. I'm interested to see what Brett Hundley looks like in his sort of second real start here. He really hung with Seattle last week and sort of went blow for blow with them, trying to keep that offense alive. And to me, he looks like a guy who's capable of making the throws. He makes it seem mighty easy. Another guy who just seems to not get totally overwhelmed, with the play calling and that sort of thing, and just goes out there and finds an open guy. What's really disappointing with Vegas to me is the fact that two of their marquee players, in Martavis Bryant and Geronimo Allison, have been really zeros for them in the passing game so far. So I just kind of keep waiting for that sleeping giant to wake up. It wasn't that long ago that these guys were making real plays in NFL games, and they just seem to maybe there's something about the fact that once you've had some NFL success, there's not as much hunger there the next time around, especially in a league that feels like maybe not where you want to be. Maybe there's an explanation there, but those guys are still getting lots of snaps. They're out there and they're just not earning targets from their quarterback, regardless of who that is. But on the other side, you got DC, who just totally came alive last week. Jordan Ta'amu, I thought, looked great. De'Aaron King came in and not only ran the ball well, but got himself a touchdown passing as well. And I think that's kind of they're trying to lull you to sleep there with the De'Aaron King run game, and then once you kind of doze off, they're going to dump it right over your head for some easy points. But no, I think if they can kind of continue to find their rhythm there, they can be really strong. I think DC's got their work cut out for them, though, against Vegas. Vegas obviously going to be super hungry coming into this game. You can tell Rod Woodson's ready to run through a brick wall if he's got to get his first get another win going. But what do you think is going to happen in this game? I feel like I have less of a pulse on this one than some of the others.
Well, I think DC right now is the same thing with St. Louis, where, I mean, anything in that field, I just think they vibe on that. I think they look really good. I was concerned going into last week that they looked better in the standings than they were, but they finally able to pass the ball. And, the defense is still, we're getting pick sixes. Like, I don't know. I would take DC in this, but if Vegas falls again, I mean, they're really kind of out of any sort of contention here.
Yeah, totally. They'll obviously be completely leapfrogged by DC, who's still undefeated at this point. St. Louis looks like a cupcake matchup against Arlington, and then Seattle, seems like a big favorite to get the win against San Antonio. So, Vipers are going to blink their eyes and all of a sudden realize that they're playing for draft picks for next year at this point. So, no, I at this point, like, I really don't care who wins and loses. I really want to see who can stand up and make plays, because I think one of the things that the USFL hangs its hat on from last year is the success Kevontae Turpin had in the NFL, coming straight in, getting a job with the Dallas Cowboys after dominating the USFL, just like a complete talent display out there week after week, and goes in and makes a Pro Bowl for the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's how this league justifies its existence, is by having more and more success stories like that, where a guy, a Jeff Badette, can finally get his chance to, get some real snaps with an NFL team, get himself that catch that he's looking for to go into the NFL stat book. Would love that for a guy like that. And you're starting to see some sparks developing and some chemistry developing with these teams. If they can build on that, develop some brand and some personnel to hang their hat on, I think that'll mean more than anything.
Yeah, it's hard for me to really cheer as a vested fan here. I mean, like you said, it's more just watching the players and the opportunities. If anything, I wanted Seattle to win last week, because, like, how do you fill Lumen Field at 0-3? And, here with the Guardians, like, I care more about it on that business side. Like, we got to at least have some of these teams, Guardians, if you're in this, or even with the Vipers, I mean, they're only playing 3 more home games, but, you go back in there 0-4, 0-5, like, it's really hard to get people incentivized to go. So that's what I care about.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we all want spring football to make it. And part of that comes by having compelling storylines, having teams that are competitive, not having empty stands show up on the TV product, having stuff people want to tune into, having success stories that we can build on year after year. And, just sort of cycling through talent, become a destination spot for, I think if you just sort of look out on the horizon, like what the XFL or USFL could eventually be, like, it could be not only just like a place for people who went and had their cup of coffee in the NFL, but maybe even a place sort of before you get into the NFL, a place for maybe college players who could stand to put a little bit more film, out there on tape, like give them a chance to make a name for themselves. So I'm anxious to see how all of it turns out.
Yeah, you want to call it the developmental league without calling it the developmental league.
Exactly right. Yeah, do what you got to do, man. Let's get some. Let's make this a really fun product, and so far it has been fun. I've had a blast tracking it through 3 weeks.
Yeah, just a final note for me, because I don't know where I'll say this anywhere else on the show. There's been a lot made this week because Nathan Rourke, right? He was the big CFL superstar. He goes to the Jaguars, and then he's the third quarterback there, and all the CFL people are crying because, like, well, he's not going to get a fair shot, and I'm like, that's why the XFL and the USFL exist. Let Nathan Rourke come play a year, play 10 weeks here, and light up the world, and then transition in that way. Because it's harder to look at the CFL game and bring it down to the to the NFL than it is to look at the USFL or XFL and say, hey, we could slot this guy right in here. So anyway, I just there are benefits to having all of these leagues.
Yeah, there's a bit more apples to apples comparison. I think that makes it easier for coaches. I mean, you put yourself in the the point of view of the coach who's turning on game film. They want to see it look like the way that they're going to play it on in their games when they're trying to make a decision on who they're going to invite and offer for that 54th spot on the roster or the 90th spot in the up here in the summer and the fall. So yeah, I think this is a great opportunity. I don't know whether two leagues will persist forever, but eventually something will win out, and maybe it's some sort of amalgamation of both the leagues. I don't know what it'll look like, but I feel relatively confident in the fact that spring football is likely here to stay for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, the long rumored USFL XFL or whatever it would be. Justin, anything else from you? What do you do? Where can people find you? Everything else?
Yeah, we're always trying to crack the code on DFS. So if you find yourself playing DraftKings or Prize Picks for XFL, go check out Run the Sims. That's my site, runthesims.com, and you can use code Markcast. Just created that before the show for your audience here, Reed. Use code Markcast for 10% off a subscription there. They get access to optimizers and projections and all the fun things that give us a little bit of an edge here in a sport that doesn't have a lot of information out there.
Well, Justin, I really appreciate it and getting people like you on that, dive deep in and, really care about kind of, the different players and everything else. It means a lot. I appreciate it. And it should be a good one.
Yeah, man. Sounds good. We're going to have a great time in week 4. And, I'm pulling for these Sea Dragons to make it to the finals. I'm a D.C. Defenders fan by heart, so I got lots of rooting interest, but I know only one of those two shall survive.
There we go. Thanks again. Excited today to be joined by one of the kings of the North here. We have Joe Wallace at DC Defenders. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Glad to have you, man. Have me here, man. How you doing today?
I'm good. I reached out to the team and they said, Joe's been balling. You need to get him on the show. And so here we are. How is, we're approaching week 4 here. How's XFL treating you?
Man, I've been having a blast, man. Just anytime I can play football, man, it's just a blessing. So, I've been blessed to have a great defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, him being able to have his hand in some of the greatest defensive players of all time. I have a great D-line coach, great people around me. So I'm having, I'm blessed right now, man. I'm blessed to be in this position, man.
Yeah, we had Coach Sharper on here, I think preseason. I can't remember when that was. What is it like, like you said, with Coach Williams, with everybody, this, having this staff around you help to train you?
Man, we get a little bit of both. We get, guys that played in the league, like you said, Coach Harp, and, legendary coaches. We got some college guys, head coaches, a college guy. And my defensive line coach, Coach Watkins, is a college guy. No pro experience, but he will get some. But not yet. But just having that mix, and it's just seemed to work. You're just getting a lot of different ways of coaching, a lot of different motive, because Coach Greg isn't an easy guy to be playing for. So, but adding that type of guy to their room with these calm guys, it's been good. It's been a good time, man. Honestly,
undefeated here. Big home game here last week against the Battlehawks. What was that like?
Oh man, atmosphere was crazy, man. DC fans came out and showed out, man. I know you seen that beer snake, man. Yeah, man. We have some great fans. Man, offense and defense play really well. We tightened up a little special team stuff, but man, team did really well, man. And we're rolling right now, so we just got to keep showing up to practice, keep working, and stacking days.
You talked about the atmosphere. Yeah, what is it? We had the whole Lemon Gate, and then we were throwing all this stuff, and now we're back. What is it like playing in that crowd and having that audience there?
Man, so I'm a small school guy. I had some experience at Tech in Lubbock, but I'm a small school guy. Particularly, I was at Sam Houston. We had 16. I never had anything like that. Like that's very unique, and one of the million type of crowds, man. Just the roar, the passion, man. Those fans just behind you, man. It's definitely different. Something everyone has to experience. I can't even really describe it. Sometimes it's just so surreal. Like you're like, wow, Like, this is the XFL. Like, come on now, we're rocking right now.
Well, especially there in that end zone with everything, it seems like with the standing room only where the beer snake is and all that, it seems for whatever reason you guys have the most success on that side of the field. I don't know if it's because the crowd noise or anything else, but it does seem like you guys all kind of live in that area of the stadium.
Yeah, man. I if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the fans, our fans actual designated section, and the VIP section over there. The Heineke. It's just pretty lit in the end zone. So I guess we just attracted to that. The fans go crazy right there. That's where the snake is actually located. So it's really fun, man. So we have a blast playing there.
Going through here 3 weeks in, getting the team up to speed, defense, everything else, do you feel like you guys are progressing well?
Definitely, man. I mean, if you're watching film, man, you see every week, we're getting better and better, on defense especially, So, when it comes to the coaching staff, when it comes to, just doing the little things right, I think as a group, we gelling even, we're getting stronger every week. So, I'm excited to see what the future has to come, what has to come for the future, man. It's going to be exciting.
Hey, you talked about before we recorded, you're enjoying your time, next step to your goal. What are you looking to get out of this whole experience?
I mean, I feel like the obvious, what everyone in the XFL is trying to do, and let's go to the NFL, So, I had some rookie minicamp invites, earlier here in this summer at Arizona and Kansas, and I didn't end up sticking. So I think this film and what I'm doing right now, if I continue to do that, I think I'm gonna have another opportunity, a fair opportunity, and just be able to live out my dream and continue to even get better. I think I have a lot, a lot more. I could get better. So that's my ultimate goal, is to get better playing in the NFL.
When you have kind of near misses like that where you don't stick, is it motivating to kind of prove people wrong? Is it frustrating? I mean, what kind of emotion do you get out of that?
Definitely motivating. But I'm young. I'm 24. It was a learning experience. So I never been on that level. I never seen how they operate. I know guys that when I was at school that been there, and I had the opportunity to talk to them. But being in the NFL or room and organization, it's different, But I'm getting here being in the XFL is kind of sort of similar. So I'm just learning from these guys like Fadal Brown and Bell and all those guys that have actual NFL experience. I'm just absorbing that, and I think once I do get the opportunity here soon, that it's going to be I'm going to be ready and be able to just take what I learned from this summer from rookie camp, and then what I'm learning now in the XFL, and just go full speed, when I do get my shot in the NFL.
We saw things get a little chippy at the end of the Battlehawks game. What was that? What was that plane ride home like together?
Oh man, it was nothing, man. I feel like with all the energy that was wasted, nobody had any more energy after that one. That was just two giants fighting it out. And I think when we play next here in next week, it's going to be another fun one. But you see that defense, man, we rolling. We're doing good.
Well, that's the thing, and that's kind of how I look at it, because you see even in single team training camps, and they get chippy and people get with. I mean, I like having that motivation. I like seeing the energy. Does that tell you that like both sides, but you guys really want it, right? I mean, you're really going here full throttle.
Yeah, definitely. If it wasn't anybody out there just trying to go, just playing half, it wouldn't be anything like that. But I feel like everyone is trying to get to the next level. Everyone is giving it their all, and we're men out there, So, people got egos, people, families watching that, people, kids, So, everybody, all the emotions going, So, it get a little chippy, but it's all love at the end of the day, man. Football it's a tight community, man. We all love each other. We all love this sport, man. So, it's just all love at the end of the day.
Playing here again, the Vipers, we played the whole Cashman Field. It was, I think slightly different circumstances will be this weekend here at Audi Field. What do you make of the Vipers and what are you guys looking to do against them?
Man, just like every other team in the XFL, man, they're getting better every week. On their quarterback, they had the quarterback change, and they're getting better with the new guys. So, but they're the targets, and we're not going to take them lightly at all. And when we get to DC, we're going to defend.
Did you expect to be undefeated at this point?
Definitely, man. When we reported, I seen the guys we had. You could just feel and tell a vibe. I just came from Sam Houston. We came off a national championship run, and even then in the beginning of that season, I just felt a vibe, man. It was just like you could just tell the faces, everybody serious, and like right now, man. Early in camp, man, you couldn't tell guys nothing. Like guys wanted, guys were hungry, So I've been knowing, man. This isn't a surprise at all.
We've heard a lot of that, right? And obviously with Danny and DJ and everyone, and talking up the player 54, we've heard that a million times. But it feels to me like you guys do buy into that, feel that. Is that accurate?
Yes, definitely, man. I feel like that, like if the XFL and what this team represents, it's the same thing. We're looking for the opportunity. We have that chip on our shoulder, just like our owners do. So it's a perfect example. That 54, we're that. We're perfect.
Well, I've said that any game right now at Audi Field is a must-watch, so I'm excited for the game this weekend. I appreciate your time today. You guys, I'm a Dragons fan, so I'm not as happy about your undefeated right now, but we'll get there eventually. We'll get another matchup here. Really appreciate your time. Anything else before I let you go?
Man, I appreciate you for having me, man. For real though, man. And hopefully, man, you guys get something. Zero and the Nucci's, they looking special, man. So. Hey, who knows?
Do you see? Do you see the highlights and stuff of the other games? And
come on, we have to see those guys again. Of course, we know like we said, we don't take anyone lightly, and that's a superstar. Zero is a superstar. He does. Why? I don't know why he's in the XFL. Who knows? I don't know, but you better watch him. So yes, everybody sees the highlights. We don't take them lightly, man, and Danucci too. So, yeah, man, we gotta go up there and see. Hope you come to the game and watch us whoop up on them boys.
Well, yeah, when you come to Lumen, our seats are front row, 50-yard line, so we'll be chirping. I'm very excited to see you there. But Joe, really appreciate your time today. Hope you have a good one.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man.
Well, I'm excited today. We have Darrius Shepherd here, St. Louis Battlehawks. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Exciting season approaching week 4. I think it's going to be a rocking time this weekend. How is your life going right now? Welfare check.
So we're down here in Arlington, living in the hotel right now, and things are going really smooth. They're taking care of us, and we're excited to get to St. Louis for the first time. We've been on the road for 3 weeks and finally get to go home.
I know it's got to be a weird thing. You've been, you're drafted, you're on the Battlehawks. You've heard this whole time about this crazy Battlehawks nation. Have yet to see it. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Just the support, man. We've seen videos of how it was in 2020. We've heard so much about, the fan base excited to get us down there. We had a few players and coach fly down, I think in January, and, they're ready for football. So we're excited to go play in front of them and get that home field advantage finally.
In terms of team chemistry, AJ, everyone else, how are you feeling on offense?
Yeah, I feel like we haven't quite played our best game. I think we're gelling as a group. We just got to get it together and put 4 strong quarters together. And I think we'll, have a chance to do that this Sunday, and people can hopefully see our best ball when we do that.
In terms of, kind of a tough loss here last week against the Defenders, how do you guys kind of rebound here going into the home game?
Right. I think, we came in, we watched the film, and, you clean the slate after that. You move on to the next game. Arlington's our next opponent, and, we're focused on them this week, trying to just push forward and be 1-0 this week.
In terms of just experience overall in the XFL right now, what's it been like? You said they're taking care of you. You've been here now 2 months, right? Month and a half. What's it been like?
Yeah, it's been a good process. I think, this is a developmental league in a sense, and they're trying to mimic like an NFL type schedule. So for guys that have been in the NFL or guys that this is their first opportunity, they're getting a real feel for what professional football is like on a day-to-day basis with meetings and, your short breaks and, going to practice and treatment and all that good stuff. So, it's top notch, and, we're just trying to take it one week at a time.
Saw you, last year in the USFL, right? Really excel, had a great season. What was the thought process of going to the XFL this year versus going back?
Yeah, I think the XFL had a lot of really good buzz. I like the time of year as well. I think for a guy like me, I'm hoping to come to this league to develop myself, to get good film and show that I can compete at the next level. And being in this league, it allows you to go play, learn from great coaches, and then turn around and hopefully get into OTAs where you're not missing that window. So I think the XFL is did a really good job of timing up when they're playing, following Super Bowl weekend and hopping right into football.
In terms of Coach Beckton, you can see his excitement on the sidelines. It looks infectious to me, and someone that, is all in with you guys and trying to be a leader there. What has it been like being on his team?
It's been a lot of fun. Coach Beck brings a lot of energy. Him being a former player, he has a lot to give to us. So, every week we want to go to war for him and do our best. But, he keeps things fresh and fun, and, it's a good time over here.
In terms of, quarterbacks, AJ has been one of the standouts, right, this year. Any surprise to you seeing him and you guys having as much production as you have so far?
I wouldn't say I've been surprised. When I got the call to come to the Battlehawks, I was super excited because we had AJ McCarron, somebody that's been there, done that. He has a vet experience, all the championships he won in Alabama, he's a winner. So when we got here, we didn't have to start slow. He already knew what we were doing, and, we were rolling. The disappointing thing, I guess, is just that we want to put together for, 4 quarters and keep rolling and, show what we can do in this league. So that's really where we're at right now.
How is the travel going for you guys? I know obviously with the hub and going out, are you guys used to that at this point? Is that a challenge here every week? How are you guys bearing with that?
It's definitely interesting. It is what it is as far as traveling to, Seattle one week and then, we're going to St. Louis. It's different time zones and schedules and all that, but you just kind of deal with it. We're blessed to be here playing football, so I can't complain at all,
What are you looking to accomplish personally here through the rest of the year, and how are you looking to parlay that here into future opportunities?
Yeah, I just think I want to show that I've grown in different areas, whether it's special teams or at the receiver position, that I can compete and be one of the best players in this league, and hopefully, that turns into, opportunity at the next level.
In terms of the rest of your guys and camaraderie, if I could speak, locker room, do you feel like this has been a good chance to build and living together and traveling together and to be in a part that, do you feel like a tighter unit because of all that?
No question. I think during training camp, you kind of had that knocking heads thing because you're going against the defense every day and you want to see somebody new. But I think we really grew as a group, and we have a really tight knit, group right here. So I think we're going to have a lot of success, and we can lean on that as the season goes forward.
I saw we had one of the defenders on here following game here last week. Got a little heated at the end of the game last. So what was that plane ride back home? How to have been a unique situation?
Yeah, kind of an embarrassing situation on both sides for the teams, and not something you want to see, but. It is interesting because, you're turning right around and hopping on the plane with them to fly home. But there was no drama. I think just heated emotions on the field. You kind of squash it and, and just be men about it.
Well, if anything, I look at it that you're showing, passion and desire to compete and be a part. I look at it as not a positive, but I don't look at it as like a negative on that side of things. But it shows that the guys really care to be there.
No doubt. No question about that. There's a lot of guys that are very passionate about this and guys that want to win and compete. And I think that makes the league better when you have guys that, that care that much.
Anything else from you before I let you go? I appreciate it. I know people are looking forward to this weekend. What are you expecting to see when you walk on the field on Saturday, right? Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, man, I'm just looking forward in the dome. I played there in high school, so this is my first time being back there in a while, and hopefully it's full of blue and we can go out there on a good performance.
Well, I think it's going to be rocking, Darrius. I appreciate your time today. Best of luck and safe travels here this weekend.
Thank you, sir. Take it easy, man.
Awesome, man. See you. Thanks. Well, last we spoke, I think it was about a year ago this time. We had Vernon Adams on. He was the Montreal quarterback. Many things have changed now. Vernon, how are you doing today?
Yeah, man. Man, first of all, thank you for having me. You know, it's always a pleasure coming on here with you. Like you said, was here on here last year with you, but yeah, big changes. You know what I'm saying? Got traded middle of the season last year, as everybody know, and I'm over here on the West Coast, just like you. And yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, West Coast, Best Coast. I will tell you now, the people that I associate closest with online, all of our XFL writers and CFL writers, you have big supporters in all of them. And the reactions we had in the group chat the day that all that news came out, like I think Farhan said something, and then we were over the moon. What has just the last 6 months even been like for you? It's got to be busy.
Definitely busy. Last 6 months, trying to, or going back to last year's season, trying to keep us in second place when I got there. And we did that as a team. Nate came back and did a tremendous job. And then after season was kind of just a waiting game because I was trying to see what Nate was doing. Was he coming back or was he going to the NFL? And, he went to the NFL. So now they kind of turned it over to me, saying it's my thing, my show, but you always got to earn it in this game. You know what I'm saying? So I've been just working hard, man, grinding, have some family stuff going on lately, but I'm back to the grind and ready to just keep moving forward and getting better.
How challenging was it to, trade mid-season? You're coming in, it's all new everything, all new, organization and playbook and everything else.
Right. It was tough, you know what I'm saying? But I pride myself in just coming to work every day, regardless, being the first one in there, one of the last, if not the last, on our OC, Jordan McSimic, he's in there all day. So he's grinding. But yeah, man, I took it up on myself to say, hey, I know it's going to be tough, but that's a good team over there in BC. So let me just come in and just do my job, get these guys the ball. We had a great defense, and let them do the rest. It was a lot, but it was fun. That challenge was fun, and just trying to stay here all the time. Not getting too high, not getting too low, no matter what's going on. So it was tough, but it was definitely a fun challenge.
It just from an emotional standpoint, I always try to this happens in all sports and these trades and people look at it, oh, so-and-so. It's like if someone's relocating their entire life here, trying to figure this out, on a personal level and, going from Montreal back to, and I know that obviously it's closer to family here on the West Coast for you, but the challenges with that had to be, a lot.
Definitely. You got to deal with all my stuff that's in Montreal. I'm on a 6-month lease. So depending on your landlord, if they let you out that lease or not, which mine didn't, you have to pay 2 rents. So now I got a mortgage back home here in Tacoma, Washington. I got rent in Montreal, and I got rent in BC. So, you pick up all this stuff, you go and you're trying to deal with all this stuff and paying the rent. And then you got an offense, a playbook that you've never dealt with before, in your career, as far as all the movements and the motions and different, how ROC calls the plays. So it was a lot. It definitely was a lot, man. And you got family, you get your kids and stuff like that. But again, I took on the challenge, man, no matter what the naysayers were saying or my supporters, whatever. I just took on that challenge just to come in and we were in second place. Just keep us in second place, if not get to first. And I felt like I did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, that's the thing is, and people, and we've talked with your teammates here, over the last 2 years here, and what a locker room leader you are, right? And just in terms of a voice of that, how do you view that internally? What do you try to project when you're in the locker room?
Right. As far as being a leader, man, I've been a quarterback all my life, so it's naturally in me. You know what I'm saying? I'm always trying to lead by example on and off the field, man. Doing stuff off the field with my teammates, whether it's these mini camps that we got coming up or during season going on bowling nights with the receivers or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm always trying to do something to bring everybody together. And that's just the type of leader I am. I feel like if we could trust each other off the field, then we know we got each other's backs on the field as well. So that's what I try to do.
And yeah, obviously, the end of the year, didn't end, as anyone wanted. It's certainly not me. Yeah, I was up there. I went up to the BC. I guess it was the Calgary game and all that. What was the end of the season like? And I know Nathan came back and everything, but for you and the games that you played in, what was it like?
Yeah, the games that I played in, man, it was awesome, man. I was able to play again. You know what I'm saying? Because Montreal, they had a motive from the jump. You know what I'm saying? From the off season, of got Kahari out of there, got Bearmoss out of there, got me out of there. So it was when I came to BC, they were like, hey, this first week we'll see how it goes. But then after that, they were like, hey, this is your show. You're taking all the reps in practice. This is your show. So that felt good. All the guys rallied behind me. We had a good first game. Then the second game went so good against Calgary. Then we came back, had another really good game. You know what I'm saying? So we were kind of up and down a little bit, and we got our groove toward like in October. And then, like you said, Nate came back, and then I still prepared like I was a starter. You know what I'm saying? I still came in and watched how Nate prepared and how he did things. And nothing changes because anything could happen. If he would have went down in the Calgary game or the Winnipeg game, I would have to be ready. And I always say that I think the number 2 QB is probably one of the most important positions on the field, because that starter goes down, everybody's expecting you to come in and keep it going. Like we don't want to go down. We want to keep it going, if not get better. You know what I'm saying? So that number 2 QB, no matter who you are, myself, anybody, you just have to be ready at all times.
Knowing now, right, that it's your show heading into this season, and obviously the conversations that you're going to have with coaches and staff and everything, what excites you about this season now?
Yeah, just the fact that I get to, and I've said it everywhere, man, but just the fact that I get to learn, start from the off season of learning the offense, you know what I'm saying? And just doing this first mini camp. I did like 3 or 4 mini camps with Montreal receivers, but doing this first one with these guys, the BC guys, I get to know them even more. We got Dane Evans, we got Dom, coming in to push the QB room, and those guys will be here too. So I'm excited for an exciting year with these guys, with this team, and just take it one day at a time and show what I can do.
Yeah, I saw it. We've been trying to get you on for a couple of weeks, and I know you've had things, that you've been necessary things you've been working with. Dane coming in excites me just as someone in the locker room with you. I think that's like a good positive, right? And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Okay, Rick's saying, it's your show. We're bringing in Dane. Just in terms of like locker room vibes and you both being just positive influences on that. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be good, man. We worked together in 2018 in training camp in Hamilton, his first year, my third year in the league. And, he's been to 2 Grey Cups, man. So he's led his team to 2 Grey Cups. So he's got that experience. I know I'm going to learn from him. He's going to learn from me because we've grown since 2018. And, again, like you said, we're both positive guys. So, and I think we're going to compete, all 3 of the QBs, Dom, myself, and then we're going to compete like we're all just going for that number 1 job. You know what I'm saying? And all that's going to do is raise everybody else up to, the competition level, all the receivers, DBs, everybody going to see it. So as long as, we're doing that, leading the team on and off the field, I think everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, we had some, moving pieces and stuff here in free agency in the offseason. Who are you excited to work with here coming into the new season?
Yeah, coming into the new season, who we got? We got some new running backs, man. I'm excited. Obviously I love JB, man. I'm glad he got what he deserved over there in Hamilton and stuff like that. But, I'm excited to get these young running backs going. We got an NFL back. We got a young guy, Tavian Feaster, who I was with in Montreal last year. I'm ready to get with those guys. I know what these receivers can do. I know what they can do, and I know what they're going to do for me. Also got my left tackle, or I got a tackle from Montreal, who's my friend. You know what I'm saying? Chris Slugger. I'm excited for him to compete for that left tackle spot and get in there and we play together again. So, some new faces a little bit on the offense. Defense, I know they're going to handle their business, and I'm just excited to get into camp and go against GP, one of the best corners in the league, TJ Lee, best halfback in the league. You know what I'm saying? Those guys are going to get me better and elevate my game.
Question for you, and like obviously, Montreal has kind of continued to have everything since you left, and now there's, the sale could have happened by this point, whatever we're talking. But coming into BC with Amar Doman, with everything there, solid ownership, promotions, everything else. Like, what is it like coming into an organization like that?
Man, it's great because I was watching it from afar. You know what I'm saying? I've seen everything Amar was doing. Even Victor over in Edmonton, seeing the stuff that he's doing. I love what Gary was doing. Shoot, don't get me wrong. I love Gary. That's my guy. Like, I don't care what the fans say about him or anything. And all that. Hey, Montreal's been what it's been before he got there. He was trying to do his part to help him out, and it just didn't work out. So I'm sorry for that. But yeah, coming over with AD. Man, he's just a great leader, man. He's a great leader. He supports his players and does all the stuff in the community. And it's just awesome to see, man. And when he's shouting me out on his Instagram saying, hey, get behind Vernon, like he's our guy. Like, I love that, man. It just makes you feel good and confident in yourself. And now you can play with that confidence, So it's been a great feeling, man. Great transition. And I just can't wait to see what we do this year.
I like that. I like AD. I like that. I like calling him AD. No, I mean, Gary, we were I can't remember the end of the Montreal game there at the end, but we were very close to having Gary at our live show in Regina for the Grey Cup. I mean, it was like if they had made it, but no, I love Gary and all that, and we'll figure all that out. But I mean, Baker's promise, lots of excitement here with BC heading into the season and blowing the roof off, and you being the face of all that. Talk about playing in BC, playing in Vancouver, and kind of trying to revitalize the team there with everything going on.
Yeah, man, and that all really starts with Nate from last year, man. What he's done with the team last year, years before, I think 2 or 3, they hadn't been to the playoffs for, I think, a few years now. You know what I'm saying? They haven't hosted a home playoff game in about 8 years, so he started that, man, and I'm just trying to keep that groove going, and I'm not worried about it because when I got my teammates behind my back, my team owner behind my back, I'm confident, and when I'm playing confident, man, I've been a winner everywhere I've gone. You know what I'm saying? I've never been a loser, and that's just what it is, man. And this it has a lot to do with the guys around me. You know what I'm saying? These guys are athletes around me. They're great players, great human beings, great fathers, husbands, all that. And we all just push each other to be better on and off the field. So just, excited for that. And that's it, man.
I heard a lot of stories about and obviously you came in after, but the legendary BC training camp last year heading into the season and kind of when all the bonds were formed. I hope that we can kind of keep that going this year, and you there and everyone else. Like, everything I heard out of that, I think Moj was talking and stuff like this, is just a special group. So I hope, for my sake here as America's CFL team, we're supporting the Lions, that we can kind of keep that going. And, it should be exciting.
Yeah, definitely, man. And, we got a lot of the same guys back. You know what I'm saying? There's a few new faces, but as far as I think the core guys of the team, offense and defensively, I think we got a lot of the same guys back. So it'll be another special group plus the new additions we have.
Something, I'll let you go here in a minute. I appreciate your time. I know you're working through, you got kid duties, everything else here. Before we started recording, you had mentioned, and I wasn't even going to think to bring it up, but you were at the XFL. You live in Tacoma. They had the Lumen Field home opener. It'll be whatever, a couple weeks ago. By the time this airs, what brought you out to the XFL game, and what did you make of it?
Right. I'm a fan of football, man. I'm a fan of football. I live here in the area, 40 minutes away. So, just decided to go up there, check him out. Coach June Jones, he was my coach in the East-West Shrine game. And he was my coach in Hamilton, for a bit when I was there. So, I wanted to go out there and check him out and see if he's still doing the same stuff. And yes, he is. He's still doing that run and shoot, that same offense. So, they got big names over there, Flash Gordon and Ben DiNucci, the quarterback, a few other guys on defense. So just want to come check them out and show some love. I'm in the area. So, it's football.
Well, no, I just, I thought that speaks a lot that here in your off season, you're taking the time to go enjoy and support. And, all these guys, whatever league it is, it's all these same stories, right? Of trying to kind of, get back or show success or get tape. Everyone's kind of got their own story, but it's all the same theme, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, man. And, obviously XFL and USFL is competition, but for me, I just look at it's good for there's more jobs for everybody, man, for not just football players, but coaches and media people, upstairs people, behind the scenes. It's more jobs for everybody, man. So obviously I love the CFL and I believe it's NFL, CFL, and whoever else y'all want to go. But, it's just more jobs for everybody. So I look at it that way. It's cool.
Yeah, I remember when they announced the McLeod going to the USFL and someone's, tweeting and poo-pooing, whatever. I said, for, McLeod's family and everyone that he supports and everyone in that league, like they certainly care about that. Like you claim to want to support, especially the CFL, like these are our teams and our players and our league. Like you want them to find success wherever it's going to be.
Exactly, man. And that's what a true fan is, man. That's why a lot of the fans, you can't get into it too much, man, with all the social media back and forth. Because one moment they're going to be, that's this. And the next moment is you suck and all this, you know what I'm saying? But the true fans, man, they're going to stay with you regardless and just show love and show support, man. And I'm happy for McLeod. Like, his wife has a great job. He wants to be closer to his family. Like if it was about the money, he would have came back up here, but it's not, you know what I'm saying? So he just loves the game of football. And I wish him the best over there. And shoot, you never know. Shoot, the Toronto fans, I might see him again, so we'll see.
Well, Vernon, I appreciate your time. Excited for the season. Now is our quarterback here for America's CFL team. I think that's good. I'm booking my wedding summer schedule right now, but when I get some slots, we'll try to make it up there to BC Place and see you guys. So very excited. I appreciate your time today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my guy. Thank you for having me, man. Have a great one.
Huge special thanks to all 5 of our guests today for coming on. Busy show. Really appreciate Skubie taking the time to come on, working XFL Today, everything else with this ESPN schedule. Really am appreciative to Skubie, his flexibility coming on the show. Special thanks to Justin Freeman, extended sit down with Justin, like almost 35, 40 minutes with Justin. I could talk with him all day. Lots of knowledge there. Make sure you go check out runthesims.com if you want to utilize any of the tools that Justin has over there for fantasy. Remember, he has the promo code Markcast. I thought that was nice. Justin set that up. And then the teams over at the Battlehawks for setting up Darrius and the Defenders for setting up Joe. Really appreciate that. And then Matt, as always, with the BC Lions. Always so good to us there, getting Vernon on the show. I have everybody's emails for the 2,500 subscriber giveaway. So, Chris with the ball, the jerseys, all of that stuff. I'll be mailing out all of those next week. I've been really under the weather this week. It's not any of that stuff, but just sore throat coming back from Mexico. I'm sure I caught something on the plane. And then we are, like I said, 3,500 subscribers. Get us there. 2 free tickets, either the XFL Championship game or USFL Championship game. Hope you enjoyed the early episode this week. Should be back to normal programming next week. Tune back in on Monday. Andy Murray and I will be doing a breakdown of XFL Week 4, I guess, at this point. And I think Evan Wilsmore is going to be calling in as well. So that should be a rocking time Monday, and then should be normal as always Friday there, 7 a.m. Pacific. Like I said, make sure you check out my appearance on Rod's show. Thanks to the crew, Clark, Darren, Rod, everyone over there for setting that up. And I think that's it. Appreciate your time. Thanks as always. Like and subscribe. Have a safe weekend.